Hello. Welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast is How to Build a 6-Month English Learning Routine.
It's great to be here. And this topic, I have to say, this is the big one. It's the one everyone asks about.
It really is. And I think we have to start with, the elephant in the room. We all know that person.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
The one who, decides on a Tuesday to learn Spanish, and by Friday they're ordering tapas and making jokes with the waiter.
While the rest of us have been learning for a decade and still get nervous asking where the bathroom is.
Exactly. I took 4 years of French in high school. I can confidently ask for the location of the library. That's it. That's my party trick.
It's this central mystery, isn't it? This huge gap between people who seem to just absorb a language and those who struggle for years and years.
And our first instinct, or at least my first instinct, is to just say, oh, they have a talent for it.
It's the language gene excuse.
Right. It's comforting because it lets us off the hook.
It absolutely does. If it's genetics, then, hey, it's not my fault I can't do it. But the truth is, and all the research points to this, that's almost never the case.
Your brain is already wired for language.
It is. You learned one language already, didn't you? The hardware is perfectly fine. The problem is the software, the operating system you're running.
So those people making huge progress in 6 months, they're not wizards.
They're not wizards, they're not necessarily smarter, and they're not even always working harder. They're just working smarter. They have a system.
And the rest of us?
We have what I call random acts of studying.
Huh. That sounds painfully familiar. A bit of this app, a YouTube video here, maybe read a chapter of a grammar book there.
And you hope it all just magically sticks together. But it doesn't. So I want to be really clear right up front.
Okay.
This isn't a get fluent in 10 days magic pill. That stuff doesn't exist.
No snake oil here.
None. What we're doing today is laying out a 6-month blueprint, an infrastructure you can build that's sustainable and personalized to take you to a completely different place.
I like that word blueprint. It implies construction. But before we build, I feel like we need to look at why our past attempts failed. A little bit of demolition work.
A postmortem, yeah.
Yeah.
We have to clear the rubble. And typically, it comes down to 3 huge fundamental mistakes. If you're stuck, I'd bet you're making at least one of these.
Okay, lay them on us. What's mistake number 1?
It's confusing studying with acquiring.
Studying versus acquiring. Okay, that sounds a little bit like semantics. What's the real difference there?
It sounds like it, but it's actually deep in neuroscience. Studying is like reading a book about how to swim.
You're learning the theory, the physics of buoyancy, stroke mechanics.
Precisely. You're memorizing rules. You're looking at verb conjugation tables. You're learning about the language. It's an academic subject.
Like history or geography.
Spot on. But acquiring is getting in the pool. It's the procedural memory, the muscle memory. It's what happens when you absorb the language through meaningful context until it becomes subconscious, an instinct.
So a classroom where you're just copying rules off a whiteboard, that's almost entirely studying.
Almost entirely. And that's why you can ace the grammar test but freeze in a real conversation.
Yeah.
You don't have time to mentally flip through your textbook to find the right rule.
You need the instinct.
You need the instinct. And that only comes from acquisition. From watching a movie and getting the joke, from listening to a podcast and following the story. The plan we're outlining today flips the common ratio. Acquisition has to be like 80 or 90% of your time.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so what's mistake number 2?
Lack of a system. I call it the magpie effect.
Ooh, shiny objects. I'm very familiar with this one.
We all are. You hear about a new app, so you download it. A week later, a YouTuber says this book is the best, so you buy that. Then a friend recommends a podcast, so you switch to that.
You're just jumping from one shiny thing to the next.
And you end up with a ton of beginner-level knowledge in 10 different things, but no depth in anything. You never get the benefit of compound learning because you keep hitting the reset button.
That feels like a personal attack. Okay, I'm guilty. What's the third big mistake?
Tracking the wrong metrics.
What do you mean, like people tracking how many hours they study?
Exactly that. I studied for 2 hours today. It feels productive, but it's a vanity metric. It tells you nothing about your actual progress.
Because you could have just been staring at the page daydreaming.
You could have. It's meaningless. You need to track output, tangible results.
So instead of hours studied, what should we be tracking?
Crack conversations held, minutes of speaking, pages written, podcasts understood without subtitles, things that prove your ability has actually changed.
Okay, so a massive shift in philosophy. Acquisition over studying, a consistent system, and tracking output. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Month 1, the foundation and habits.
Right. And month one is where most people fail because it starts with something deeply uncomfortable.
Which is?
Brutal, unflinching honesty. Before you learn anything new, you need a full audit of where you are right now.
An audit? That sounds clinical and terrifying.
It can be. But you can't draw a map to your destination if you don't know your starting point. You have to assess all 4 skills: listening, reading, speaking, and writing.
And how do we do that without, just guessing? Oh, I'm a 6 out of 10 in listening.
Guessing is no good.
Right.
Our egos are terrible judges. You need hard data. For speaking, you're going to record yourself.
Oh, no, I hate the sound of my own voice.
Everyone does. It's a universal law. But you have to do it. Take out your phone, hit record, and just talk for 5 minutes about your day, your job, your pet, anything.
And the painful part, listening back to it.
That's the part that matters. You will hear every hesitation, every mistake, and it will be cringeworthy. But you save that file, you label it baseline, because that recording is going to be your most powerful motivator in 6 months.
It's not for self-criticism, it's for comparison later. That's a great way to frame it. What about for listening?
Go to the TED Talks website. Pick a talk on a topic you find interesting. Listen once with no subtitles at all, and then be honest. How much did you really understand? 50%, 70%. Just the main idea or the details and jokes. Write it down.
So we have our baseline. Then we need a goal. The outline calls it a North Star.
Yes. And we need to get away from vague goals like, I want to be fluent.
Why is that a bad goal? It seems like the obvious goal.
Because it means nothing. What is fluent? Can you order a pizza or can you debate philosophy? They're totally different levels. A vague goal leads to a vague plan.
So we need something concrete.
Something you can clearly say yes or no to.
Yeah.
Like, I want to actively participate in my weekly team meeting at work. Or I want to watch an entire season of my favorite show without subtitles.
Oh.
Or I need a specific score on my IELTS exam.
Specific, measurable. Got it. Okay, goal is set. Now we design the environment. And the advice here seems to be less is more.
So much more. This is how we fight the magpie effect. For month one, you are allowed 1 grammar resource. I recommend English Grammar in Use.
The blue one, it's a classic.
It's the gold standard. You need 1 vocabulary app. Anki or Quizlet are great for spaced repetition. And 1 main source for listening, like a specific podcast or YouTube channel. That's it. Stop looking for more tools.
Use what you have. And what about a physical space?
It sounds small, but it's huge. Dedicate a specific chair or a corner of your desk. When you sit there, it's English time. It trains your brain. It's a trigger for the habit.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's talk about the daily routine. This is the big one, the I don't have time problem.
And this routine is built for people who don't have time. We're not talking about a 4-hour block of studying. We're building what I call non-negotiables.
So walk me through a perfect day in month one.
It starts in the morning, maybe just 20 minutes. This is your input time.
Why the morning?
Your willpower is at its highest, and your brain is fresh. It hasn't been battered by 100 emails and decisions yet. This is when you do your vocabulary review with your SRS app.
Right, the Anki deck.
Yeah, the algorithm tells you what to review. It's very low friction. Then you read. But, and this is key, you read for pleasure.
So not the grammar book.
Definitely not. You read a blog about your hobby, a sports website, an article about cooking. You want your brain to connect English with dopamine, not with chores.
I like that. So a positive start. Then what? The afternoon.
Afternoon is for active work. This is when you might feel a bit of a slump, so we engage the brain. Maybe 30, 40 minutes. This is where you open that grammar book.
The heavy lifting.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But you study 1 small concept, and then you immediately have to use it. You write a journal entry for the day, and you make sure to use that new grammar point 3 or 4 times. You have to produce.
Got it. And the evening.
Evening is for immersion. You're tired, your brain is fried, so you don't study, you just relax in English.
So you swap out your usual TV show for one in English.
Or a podcast while you cook dinner, or YouTube videos, just 20 or 30 minutes of passive, enjoyable listening. It's about surrounding yourself with the language.
So all in, we're talking about maybe 80, 90 minutes a day, but broken into these manageable chunks.
It's designed to fit into a real life. But there's one more piece for month one that is critical. Speaking anxiety.
Ah, yes, the fear, the feeling that you're going to sound stupid.
It's paralyzing, which is why, and this might sound strange, for the first 2 weeks, I don't want you to speak to anyone.
Not even a tutor.
Nope. For weeks 1 and 2, you only talk to yourself.
I already do that, so this should be easy.
Perfect. But now you do it in English, and you do it consciously. You narrate your life. out loud.
Like, I am now opening the refrigerator. I see some old lettuce.
Exactly. I am chopping this onion. Why am I crying?
Explain your job to an imaginary person while you're driving. The point is to get your mouth, your tongue, your jaw used to making English sounds without the social pressure of a conversation.
You're building the physical skill before you add the mental load of a real interaction. You're lowering the stakes to zero. Then, in week 3, you start recording yourself again. In week 4, you book your first session with a tutor on a platform like italki. You gradually increase the pressure.
That makes it so much less terrifying. Okay, so month 1 is in the books. We have habits. We move on to month 2, expanding exposure.
The engine is running. Now we need to give it better fuel. Let's start with vocabulary. Most people learn vocabulary from random lists.
Apple, table, dog, happy.
Useless. Completely decontextualized. Your brain doesn't remember lists, it remembers networks of meaning. So in month 2, you stop learning random words. You only add words to your Anki deck that you find in content you're reading or listening to.
And you add the whole sentence, not just the word.
Always the full sentence, because that gives you context. And that leads us to the real secret to sounding natural, which is collocations.
Collocations. Break that down for us. It sounds a bit technical.
It's just words that like to hang out together. Native speakers don't think word by word. We think in chunks. You don't make your homework, you do your homework.
But you make a mistake. You don't do a mistake.
There you go. There's no grammar rule for that. It's just what sounds right. If you learn the chunk, make a mistake, as one vocabulary item, you'll never get it wrong. It dramatically speeds up your fluency.
Because you're grabbing a pre-built phrase instead of building it from scratch every time.
It's a total game changer.
Okay.
Okay, so that's vocab. Now, grammar in month 2. We get systematic.
You mean we have to learn everything?
No, we focus on the big ones. Weeks 5 and 6, you focus only on tenses, past, present, future. Weeks 7 and 8, modals, can, could, should, would. But the key isn't the exercises in the book. It's something called active noticing.
Active noticing, what's that?
It's that phenomenon where you learn a new word and suddenly you see it everywhere.
Right.
So in your afternoon study session, you learn about the present perfect. Then in the evening, you're watching your show and a character says, I've never been to Paris. And a little light goes on in your brain. That's it.
So the study session primes your brain to find the grammar in the real world.
And that connection, that moment of discovery, cements the knowledge far better than a worksheet ever could.
Okay, let's talk reading. Month 2 introduces the I+1 principle.
Right, from the linguist Stephen Krashen.
Yeah.
I is your current level. +1 is something that's just a little bit challenging.
The Goldilocks zone. Not too hard, not too easy.
Precisely. You want to be able to understand maybe 80 to 90% of what you're reading. That way, you're not frustrated, but you're also not bored. You can infer the meaning of the new words from the context.
And that struggle to infer meaning is the learning process.
That's where the acquisition happens. So 30 minutes that a day. Then for listening, in month 2, we evolve. We cut the crutch.
Meaning the subtitles in our native language.
They have to go. Switch them to English subtitles. And eventually the goal is no subtitles at all. And we add a specific exercise, the 3-pass method.
Okay, how does that work?
You take a short audio clip, maybe 1 or 2 minutes. The first pass, you just listen. What's the general idea? The second pass, you transcribe it. You write down every single word you hear.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
It is, but it's a deep listening exercise. And on the third pass, you check your transcription against the real one. You'll see all the little function words and connected speech you missed. It retrains your ear.
Okay, we're making progress. Now we're into month 3, integration and flow. This sounds like where it starts to feel more natural.
This is where English stops being a school subject and starts becoming part of your environment. We do this with digital immersion.
This is when I have to change my phone's language setting, isn't it?
Your phone, your laptop, your web browser, everything.
I've tried this before. The first few days are pure panic. You can't find anything.
It's meant to be disruptive. It forces you to navigate your daily life using English. You also change your social media. Follow accounts in English. Join a Reddit community or a Discord server about your hobby, but the English-speaking one.
You're hijacking the time you already spend online.
Yes. The goal is to get to 3 or 4 hours of exposure a day, not by adding study time, but by replacing your native language consumption.
What's happening with grammar in month 3? It says advanced grammar and nuance.
Yeah, we're moving beyond the basics into things like the passive voice, relative clauses, but more importantly, we start focusing on register.
Meaning formal versus informal language.
Exactly. Knowing when to say, I'm gonna, versus I'm going to. And we learn discourse markers. These are the little words that glue conversation together.
Like basically, actually, I mean.
Those are the ones. They buy you thinking time and make you sound much more fluent. And this flows into writing, where we move beyond simple sentences.
Right, building more complex structures.
And we assign weekly projects. 1 week, write a formal letter of complaint. The next, a personal story. The next, an argumentative essay. We're building different writing muscles.
And for speaking, the focus is on flow.
Fluency over accuracy. In month 3, we give you permission to make mistakes. The goal is to keep the conversation moving forward. We learn tools for this, like circumlocution.
That's a fancy word.
It just means talking around a word you don't know. So if you forget the word scissors, instead of freezing, you say, the thing you use for cutting paper.
You keep the conversation alive.
You keep it alive. And you learn better fillers. Instead of a long, you learn to say, that's an interesting question. Let me think. It makes you sound thoughtful instead of hesitant.
These are great practical tips. Okay, we're halfway through. Month 4, specialization and refinement.
This is where the one-size-fits-all plan ends. Up until now, everyone needs the same core skills. Now you have to look at your North Star goal and specialize.
So if my goal is business English,
then your focus shifts to meeting vocabulary, presentation phrases, and formal email writing. If you're a student, you're learning the academic word list and essay structures. If you're just learning for travel and friends, you focus on slang and cultural topics.
This is also where we do a deep dive on pronunciation.
Yes, and we go beyond just individual sounds. The real key to being understood in English is prosody.
Prosody, the music of the language.
The rhythm and stress. English is a stress-timed language. We don't give equal time to every syllable. We punch the important words and kind of swallow the unimportant ones.
Can you give an example?
Take a sentence like, I went to the store to buy some bread. A native speaker doesn't say, I went to the store to buy some bread. They say, I went the store to buy some bread. The stress is on went, store, and bread. Mastering that rhythm will make you clearer than having perfect vowel sounds.
So we practice with things like minimal pairs, ship and sheep.
Minimal pairs, tongue twisters, and just listening for and mimicking that rhythm. And on the listening front, we up the difficulty. We seek out the hard stuff.
Like fast-paced podcasts with people talking over each other.
And varied accents. You have to train your ear for Scottish, Australian, Indian, Southern U.S. accents. You deliberately find content from different places.
This is getting intense. Month 5 is expression and creativity.
This is where we add the final polish. For vocabulary, we go deep on synonyms, knowing the subtle difference between happy, content, pleased, and ecstatic.
And we finally tackle phrasal verbs.
The great enemy, look up, look into, look over, look out. They're tough, but you can't sound natural without them. We also introduce idioms, but with a big warning label.
Don't overdo it.
Please don't. Using one or two correctly, like bite the bullet, is great. Using one in every sentence makes you sound like a textbook.
And what about developing a writing voice?
We start adding stylistic tools, metaphors, similes, better transition words, and we learn to edit our own work. To write a first draft for ideas, a second for structure, a third for polish, and then read it aloud to catch awkward phrasing.
The cultural competence part is interesting too.
It's vital. You can have perfect grammar and still offend someone. You need to understand things like humor, sarcasm, what topics are polite, how to disagree without being aggressive. That's all culture.
So true. Okay, we've made it to the final month, month 6, consolidation and autonomy.
This is graduation. You take everything you've learned and you create something with it. A final project.
Not a test.
Not a paper test.
Huh.
A real-world project. You could start a small YouTube channel in English. Or record a 3-episode podcast. Or write a long, well-researched article on a topic you love.
You're integrating all the skills.
Exactly. The act of creating something real forces you to a higher standard. And then, the best part, you go back to your baseline from month 1.
You listen to that recording.
You listen to that recording, you reread that first piece of writing, and you'll be shocked at the difference. That objective proof of progress is the most powerful motivation there is.
So after 6 months, are we done?
The heavy lifting is done. You've built the house. Now you just have to maintain it. You can shift to a maintenance routine, which is much less intense.
What does that look like?
Maybe 15 minutes of reading a day, 15 minutes of listening, a quick vocab review, and then once a week, make sure you have a real conversation or do a small creative project.
That's totally manageable.
It is. And the ultimate goal is autonomy. You know how to find your own answers now. You know how to set new goals for yourself. You've become an independent learner.
This has been an incredible roadmap. Before we wrap, let's just quickly touch on the mindset required for all this. Because the best plan in the world fails without the right psychology.
100%.
Yeah.
The most important concept is productive struggle.
Meaning?
If what you're doing feels easy, you're not learning. You're stagnating. That feeling of confusion or frustration, that's not a sign you're failing. That's the feeling of your brain making new connections. You have to learn to love that feeling.
It's like feeling sore after a good workout. It means it's working.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And you have to prioritize communication over perfection. The goal is to connect with another human, not to speak flawless grammar. Native speakers make mistakes all the time.
And celebrate the small wins along the way.
You have to. Don't wait until you're fluent to feel good. Be proud that you understood a movie scene or that you had a 5-minute conversation without switching to your native language.
Let's just list off the big don'ts one last time. The traps to avoid.
Okay. Don't fall into the tutorial trap of just watching videos about learning. You have to do the work.
Right. Don't suffer from perfectionism paralysis, waiting until you're ready to speak.
You'll never be ready. Speak now. Also, don't use your native language as a crutch, trying to translate everything in your head.
And finally, the comparison trap.
Do not compare your journey to anyone else's. Only compare yourself today to yourself yesterday.
This has been so thorough. It feels like a real actionable plan that anyone could follow.
That's the goal. It's not magic, it's a system. And it works.
So if someone is listening right now, inspired to start, what's the very first thing they should do when this is over?
Get a piece of paper and write out a contract to yourself. Seriously. Your name, commit to this process for 6 months. I will track my output. I will forgive my mistakes. Sign it. Put it somewhere you can see it every day. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now.
Not next Monday.
Not Monday. Today.
That's a powerful way to end it. Thank you so much for breaking all of this down. It really does make a daunting task feel achievable.
My pleasure. It is absolutely achievable.
Well, you heard the expert. Get your notebook, do your assessment, and start building your foundation. We hope this deep dive helps you unlock that language potential you've been sitting on. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast is How to Combine Listening, Speaking, and Vocabulary.
It sounds like a bit of a mouthful, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But, if we're being honest, this is the holy grail.
Yeah, it really is.
This is the single most requested topic we get, and I think for a very, very good reason.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it comes from a place of deep, deep frustration for a lot of people. You know the feeling. I certainly do. You spend hours, maybe even years, memorizing these long vocabulary lists.
Right, the flashcards, the apps.
You got your flashcards, you've got your apps, you're so religious about it. But then the moment you actually have to open your mouth to speak to a real live human being, you freeze.
It's the classic brain freeze. It's like the hard drive just crashes right when you need to access the file.
That is the perfect way to describe it. The words are in there somewhere, you know they are, but they're buried under layers of panic and you just can't find them. Or, on the flip side, you have the podcast junkies. And these are the folks who listen to hours and hours of English content every single week.
Right, they're consuming constantly.
Constantly. They feel like they understand everything. They're nodding along to the news. They're laughing at the jokes in a sitcom. But when they go to speak, their own sentences just feel clunky.
Robotic, unnatural.
Yeah. Exactly.
It is an incredibly common experience. And I just want to start by validating that feeling. If you're listening to this and you're nodding your head, you are not broken. You aren't bad at languages.
That's so important to hear.
It is. The problem isn't usually a lack of effort. In fact, most people who are suffering from this are probably working harder than anyone else. The real problem is a lack of integration.
Integration. Okay, that's the key word for today, because I think most of us, myself included, we treat these skills, listening, speaking, and vocabulary, as totally separate buckets.
That's it. That is the root of the issue. We treat them as silos. Tuesday is vocabulary day, so we sit and stare at a list of words in a complete vacuum.
Yeah.
Wednesday is listening day, so we put on our headphones and just kind of tune out the world. Thursday is speaking day, maybe, if we're feeling brave that week.
If we can find someone to talk to.
Right. But the brain doesn't work in silos. Language is an ecosystem. Everything is connected.
So our mission for this deep dive is to basically smash those silos. We are going to take a wrecking ball to that whole Tuesday is vocab day model.
We are dismantling it completely. We're looking at a comprehensive guide on how to treat these skills as one single interconnected loop. Because when you combine them, learning, it stops feeling like rote memorization.
It stops feeling like a chore.
It does. It stops feeling like work. It starts to feel a little bit like magic.
I love that, moving from memorization to magic.
It's all about creating a system where your listening directly feeds your vocabulary, and that vocabulary, in turn, directly feeds your speaking. It becomes a self-reinforcing engine.
Okay, so instead of pushing a boulder up a hill every day.
You're building a flywheel that just starts to spin faster and faster on its own.
Okay, I love that image. So before we get into the how, and I know we have a ton of really practical strategies to share, things like shadowing and the echo chamber method, we really need to talk about the why. Why does this isolation model fail so spectacularly? I mean, why can't I just memorize the dictionary and then suddenly be fluent?
To understand that, we have to look at the true masters of language learning. And they're not professors. They're not famous polyglots. They're toddlers.
The toddler model. I love this analogy.
Think about it. A 2-year-old never sits down with a stack of flashcards.
Yeah.
You never see a toddler saying, "Okay, mother, today I will be memorizing the furniture category. Please quiz me on ottoman versus couch."
Right. Table, chair, lamp. It's just absurd to even picture it.
It's absurd because it doesn't happen. A child learns through this seamless kind of chaotic mix of input and output. They hear a context, a parent pointing and saying, "Look at the big red ball."
Yeah.
And immediately they're trying to process that meaning.
They're connecting the sound to the object.
Exactly. They see the object, they hear the sound. Then, almost instantly, they attempt to produce that sound. Buff, bow.
And it's that interplay, isn't it? They hear it, they see it, they try to say it, and then they get corrected or they get reinforced. It's messy.
It's incredibly messy, but that mess is the method. The vocabulary cements itself through that constant interaction. The listening provides the raw material. The speaking reinforces the memory, and the vocabulary is just the result of that loop.
So vocab isn't the starting point.
No, it's the residue of the interaction. It's what's left over after the process.
Now, obviously, as adults, we have jobs, we have lives. We can't just crawl around on the floor pointing at red balls all day.
People might look at us funny.
They would. We can't fully replicate that childhood immersion. But what you're saying is we can replicate the mechanism.
I can't replicate the environment, but we can absolutely replicate the mechanism. We can design what you might call artificial immersion. And this isn't just some nice theory. There's some pretty heavy neuroscience that backs this all up.
I knew you were going to bring up the brain science. Okay, let's dig into that. The multisensory approach. I think people really underestimate how physical language actually is.
You are spot on. When you learn in isolation, let's say you're just reading a list of words silently in your head, you're only engaging a very small part of your brain. Mostly the visual cortex, some semantic processing areas.
Okay, so just one little corner is lighting up.
A tiny little corner. But when you integrate, you light up the whole switchboard.
Explain the switchboard. What's lighting up when we do it this way?
Okay, so imagine you're listening, right? That's your auditory cortex firing. You're understanding the meaning of what's being said. That's Wernicke's area coming online.
Got it.
But then, if you immediately speak that word aloud, you're activating the motor cortex to physically move your mouth, your tongue, your diaphragm. And at the same time, you're engaging Broca's area for speech production.
So it's like a full body workout for your brain instead of just doing, a single bicep curl.
That is a perfect analogy. And because you're firing all those neurons together, the auditory, the motor, the semantic, you create a much stronger, more durable memory trace. It's just stickier.
The brain pays more attention.
The brain basically says, oh, wait a minute, we're using sound, sight, and muscle movement for this one. This must be important. Let's keep this file at the top of the pile.
Okay, that makes so much sense. Now, there's another concept from the research that you put in the prep notes that really caught my eye. Transfer appropriate processing. It sounds a bit academic, but what does it actually mean for us, the learners?
It's a fancy term for a very simple, very powerful truth. We learn best when our study method matches how we will actually use the information.
So train how you play.
Exactly that. If your goal is to pass a written exam where you have to fill in the blanks, then sure, studying written lists makes sense. But that's appropriate transfer. But if your goal is to have a spontaneous conversation with another human being, studying a static list is terrible preparation. It's like studying for a swimming competition by reading a book about fluid dynamics.
You'd know all the theory about water, but you're still going to drown.
You're going to drown, unquestionably. Your brain needs to practice retrieving that word in a high-pressure conversational context. You have to simulate the game conditions.
So if I only practice recognizing a word when I see it written down,
Then your brain builds a super efficient pathway from your eyes to meaning. But it does not build a pathway from your idea to your mouth.
and that's a huge distinction. We're literally building the wrong pathways for our goals.
We build these beautiful, efficient highways for reading, and then we stand there wondering why they don't work for speaking. They're literally different roads in the brain.
That makes total sense. And that leads right into the third piece of science, the production effect.
This is one of my favorites because it's so incredibly actionable. The research consistently shows that if you rate a word silently, you have a certain level of retention. Let's call that the baseline.
Okay.
If you simply say that word aloud, even just whispering it to yourself, your retention for that word effectively doubles.
Doubles. Just by speaking it. No one even has to be listening, just saying it to the air.
Just by the act of speaking it.
Yeah.
Because you are creating two memories at once. You have a motor memory, the physical sensation of your mouth forming the word, and an auditory memory, the sound of your own voice.
So you're doubling the sensory tags that are attached to that piece of information.
You're doubling the retention pathways. So simply reading a textbook in your head is basically, it's like you're leaving efficiency on the table.
You're operating at half capacity.
You're doing all the work, but only getting half the result.
Okay, so the science is crystal clear. Isolation is out, integration is in. Let's get into the framework. The core of this deep dive is what you call the input-output loop. Can you walk us through the shape of this?
Absolutely. This is the foundation. If you take nothing else away from this whole discussion, just remember this visual. Imagine a circle.
Okay, I'm visualizing a circle.
At the very top, you have input. For our purposes, that's primarily your listening. That flows clockwise into the next stage, which is processing.
And processing is where we understand and acquire the vocabulary.
Exactly. That's where you investigate the words. That then flows into the third stage, which is output. That's your speaking. And here's the crucial part. The output generates feedback.
Feedback like, did I say that right? Or did the other person understand me?
Precisely. And that feedback then refines the whole process and changes how you listen next time.
So it's a cycle. Input, processing, output, feedback, and then back to a more refined input.
And it is self-reinforcing. The more you listen strategically, the more vocabulary you have to speak. The more you speak, the better you get at hearing the subtle nuances when you listen.
Okay, let's break this down stage by stage, starting with stage one, the input, or as we're calling it, strategic listening. Now, we have to make a very hard distinction here, right, between passive listening and strategic listening.
Yes, this is a huge trap. Passive listening is what most of us do most of the time, is when you have a podcast on in the background while you're washing dishes or jogging.
Right, your mind is wandering. You can hear it, but you aren't really listening.
You're not engaged. Passive listening is what I do when I turn on the news and then immediately start scrolling through my phone. It's just background noise.
Okay.
Now look, passive listening isn't bad. It's definitely better than silence. It can help with the rhythm and intonation of the language subliminally. But it has very, very minimal learning value for vocabulary because your brain just filters it out as ambient noise.
So strategic listening is focused, it's intentional.
It is designed specifically to feed that loop we just talked about.
So how do we listen strategically? I assume it starts with choosing the right material, because I think people sabotage themselves right at the beginning here.
They really do. They often make one of two mistakes. They pick something way too hard because they have this no pain, no gain mentality. They'll put on a PhD-level philosophy lecture or a frantic political debate.
And they understand maybe 10% and just feel completely demoralized.
Overwhelmed. Or they go the other way. They pick something made for children that's incredibly boring. You know, the cat sat on the mat.
And your brain just tunes out because it's not stimulated.
Both are fatal errors for motivation.
Yeah.
You need to find what we call the sweet spot. All the research points to material where you have about 70 to 80% comprehension.
70 to 80%. Okay, let's define that. So I should be able to understand the main gist of what's happening, you know, who's doing what to whom, but there are still specific words or phrases that are just slipping past me.
That is the perfect zone. If it's 100%, you're not learning anything new, you're just reviewing. It's too easy. If it's 50%, you're just overwhelmed. Your brain panics and stops trying to parse the meaning at all. It just becomes noise. But that 70 to 80% range means you can still follow the story, which keeps you engaged, but there are just enough unknown words, those gaps, to push you forward.
And what about the other factor here, which is interest? How much does it matter if I actually care about the topic?
Oh, it's crucial. I would argue it's maybe even more important than the difficulty level. If you love cooking, listen to cooking shows. If you are a total tech nerd, listen to tech reviews on YouTube.
Because that emotional engagement, it acts like a kind of glue for your memory, right?
It absolutely does. If you care about the content, your brain automatically tags that vocabulary as important. It says, hey, I need to know this word sauté because I really want to know how to cook this chicken properly.
Whereas if you're bored,
Your brain tags it as junk to be deleted.
yeah.
We are biologically wired to ignore things that bore us. It's a survival mechanism.
Okay, so we've got our cooking show, we've got our tech podcast. We're in that sweet spot of difficulty. What are we physically doing while we listen? We're not just sitting there passively.
No, absolutely not. Strategic listening is an active sport. We are doing something called active note-taking. This is what transforms listening from just consumption into a real interaction.
So I need a notebook out or a document open on my computer.
You do. And you're hunting. You are hunting for 3 specific things. First, obviously, new words. But here's the key, and this is going to sound really counterintuitive. Do not worry about spelling.
That goes against every fiber of my being from school. The red pen was always waiting for the spelling mistake.
I know. It triggers that old trauma. But think about it. If you stop the audio to Google the correct spelling of a complex word like bureaucracy or maneuver, you've lost the flow.
You've missed the next 3 sentences.
You've broken the loop.
Yeah.
The goal in this phase is capture, not perfection. So just write a phonetic approximation. Write what it sounds like to you.
So for schedule, I could write ski-jewel or something. For maneuver, may never, whatever works to just jog my memory of the sound later.
That's it. You can clean it all up later. Right now, your only job is to capture the sound.
Okay, capture the sound, don't worry about spelling. What else are we hunting for?
Second, you're looking for interesting expressions, and I think most importantly, collocations.
Collocations. That's a term we're going to hear a lot today. Let's define it really clearly for everyone listening.
It's just a fancy word for words that naturally hang out together. They're like best friends in the language.
Huh, like peanut butter and jelly.
That's a great comparison. Or in language, think about rain. In English, we say heavy rain. We don't say thick rain. We don't say dense rain, even though logically those adjectives might make sense.
Right. Thick rain sounds weird.
It sounds weird. We say strong coffee, not powerful coffee. Even though powerful and strong are synonyms, powerful coffee sounds really strange to a native speaker.
And it marks you as a learner immediately. It's one of those little tells.
It's a dead giveaway. It just sounds off. So when you're listening, you want to catch those chunks of language. Don't just write down the word rain. Write down the phrase heavy rain.
Or not just decision, but make a decision.
Exactly. Because in some languages, you take a decision or you do a decision. In English, we make them. Capturing that whole chunk is vital.
Okay, got it. So we've done our strategic listening. We have this messy list of phonetic scribbles and interesting phrases. This moves us to stage 2, the processing. This is the vocabulary part of the loop.
And this is where we usually go so wrong. The traditional student takes that list, they look up the definitions in a dictionary, they memorize apple means fruit, and then they move on.
Guilty as charged. I've done that 1,000 times.
We all have. We need to stop doing that. That is creating dead knowledge. It's useless. Instead, we're going to use what I call the context investigation method.
Sounds like we're becoming detectives.
We are. We're treating words as living elements, not as isolated specimens pinned to a board. So step 1, replay the context. Go back to that specific minute in the podcast where you first heard the word.
Why do I need to go back? I already heard it once.
You need to hear how it was used. What was the speaker's tone of voice? Was she angry? Was she being sarcastic? Was she joking? What was the broader situation? That emotional and situational context is a huge part of the word's true meaning.
That's so true. A word like fine can mean excellent, or it can mean just okay, or it can mean I am incredibly angry at you right now, depending entirely on the tone.
Absolutely. If you just memorize fine equals good from a dictionary, you're going to get into a lot of trouble in your relationships.
No kidding. Okay, so we replay the context. What's step 2 of the investigation?
Step 2, find additional contexts. Take that word and throw it into a search on YouTube, or a tool like Youglish, or just a news search. See how other people in other situations use it.
Ah, so you get a 360-degree view of the word. You see its range.
Precisely. Maybe the chef on the cooking show used the word whisk for eggs. Does a car mechanic ever use the word whisk Probably not. You need to see the boundaries of the word. Where does it live and where does it not live?
And then comes the part that I think is the most critical and the most often skipped step, the personal example.
This is non-negotiable. If you skip this step, you might as well just skip the whole process. You absolutely must write or speak a sentence that relates that new word to your own actual life.
Can you give me an example? Let's say I just learned the word reluctant.
Okay, reluctant. Don't just write down reluctant means hesitant. That's boring. It's dry. It has no hooks for your memory.
Right.
Instead, write something like, I was reluctant to lend my car to my younger brother because he drives like a complete maniac.
Oh, I feel that. I have a brother. There's a story there. There's emotion.
See, you felt that. You have an existing, strong, emotional memory attached to your brother and your car. By linking the new, weak word reluctant to that existing, strong emotional memory, you've anchored it. You've hooked it onto something stable in your brain.
It's like mental Velcro. It just makes it so much stickier than a dry definition.
And the final piece of the processing phase is to record audio references. Use your phone. Record yourself saying the word. Or even better, capture a little clip of the native speaker saying it. You need to hear it, not just see it written down.
Okay, so we've done our input, we've done our deep processing. Now we have to face the beast. Stage 3, the output speaking.
The output. This is where the rubber meets the road. And this is where, unfortunately, most people just stop.
And this is where that passive-active gap lives, right? That incredibly frustrating space where I know the word when you say it, but I can't produce it myself. It's right there on the tip of my tongue.
That gap exists for a simple biological reason. Recognizing a word is primarily a sensory task, but producing a word is a motor task. They are different skills using different biological hardware in your brain.
And the only bridge between them is practice.
The only bridge is deliberate speaking practice. There are no shortcuts.
But here comes the big excuse, the one we hear all the time. I don't have a speaking partner. I live alone. I can't afford a tutor. My friends don't speak English.
I hear this every single day, and I'm here to tell you, you do not need a partner to bridge this gap. In fact, sometimes it's actually better to do this initial practice alone. It's lower stakes.
Less pressure.
Far less pressure. We have 4 specific techniques here that you can do in a completely empty room.
Okay, let's run through them. First on the list is shadowing. We've mentioned it a few times. Let's break it down.
Shadowing is the gold standard for this kind of work. It's basically mimicking, but it's like aggressive, intense mimicking.
So how does it work? Step by step.
You take a short segment of audio, maybe 30 seconds of that podcast you're listening to, and you repeat it immediately after the speaker. But, and this is the absolute key, you don't just repeat the words. You have to mimic the rhythm, the pauses, the emotion in their voice, the intonation.
So if the speaker's voice goes up at the end of the sentence, my voice has to go up.
Your voice goes up. If the speaker sounds excited and a little breathless, you should sound excited and breathless. You are an actor. You are inhabiting the character of the speaker.
And this trains your ear and your mouth at the same time.
Simultaneously.
Yeah.
And it forces you to use the connected speech patterns. You know, how words blend and smash together in natural speech that you usually miss completely when you're just reading.
It forces you to stop sounding like a robot reading a script.
You nailed it. Robots pronounce every word perfectly and separately. Humans smash words together. Shadowing teaches you how to smash them correctly.
Okay, love that. Next technique, monologue practice.
This is exactly what it sounds like. You set a timer for 2, maybe 3 minutes. You pick a topic, ideally the topic of the podcast you just listened to, so the vocab is fresh, and you just go.
Just talk to the air.
Talk to the air. Talk to your cat. Talk to your reflection in the mirror. It doesn't matter who the audience is. The goal is to force your brain to retrieve those words you just studied without looking at your notes.
It's going to be messy.
It will be messy. You will stumble. You will pause. You will say a lot. That's the point. That's where the learning happens.
It's like a dress rehearsal before the main performance.
It is. And crucially, you have to record it. Listening back to your own monologue is painful, I know. It can be super cringeworthy, but it is the single fastest way to spot your own errors.
You hear things you didn't even know you were doing.
Things like, oh my gosh, why do I keep saying every 3 seconds? Or I really mispronounced that word.
Okay, third technique, conversation simulation. This one sounds a little bit theatrical.
It is, and you have to embrace the silliness of it. It involves role-playing both sides of a common scenario. Let's say you just learned vocabulary about booking a hotel room.
Okay.
You play the guest and you play the hotel receptionist.
So I'd be like, hi, I'd like to check in, please. And then I switch voices. Certainly, sir. Do you have a reservation with us? Yes, it's under the name Smith.
That is exactly the idea. It feels ridiculous, you will feel silly doing it, but your brain doesn't care that it's fake. It is practicing the retrieval pathways just as if it were in a real conversation.
You're building the muscle memory.
You're building the muscle memory of that interaction so that when you actually get to a hotel check-in desk, your brain goes, oh, wait, we've done this before. I have a script for this. The panic is gone.
It's like visualizing success, but you're doing it out loud. And the final one for this stage, read aloud.
So simple, but so effective. You find an article, or maybe the transcript of the podcast, that uses your target vocabulary, and you simply read it out loud. Focus on your pronunciation, on the flow.
And that helps bridge the visual of the written word with the sound of the spoken word.
It connects the eye to the mouth. It's a critical link in the chain.
So that's the full loop. Input, processing, output. It sounds simple, but I can see how the magic is in the repetition. Now, what if we want to go deeper? Let's talk about some advanced integration strategies for the listeners who are really hardcore.
Okay, ready to level up.
Let's do it. First up, you have something called the layered listening approach. And this is for when you want to squeeze every single drop of juice out of one piece of content.
Right. Instead of listening to 5 different podcasts one time each, which is what most people do, the idea here is you listen to one podcast 5 times. But each time you listen, you have a different mission. You're peeling back the layers of an onion.
I like that. So walk us through the 5 layers. Let's say we have a 5-minute audio clip. What's layer 1?
Layer 1, just comprehension. For this first listen, you put your pen down, no notes, just listen for the overall flow. Don't stop, don't rewind, just get the vibe. What's the story about?
Okay, so just enjoying the ride the first time. Layer 2.
Layer 2, vocabulary capture. Now you listen again, but this time you pause frequently. You have your notebook out. This is where you do your active note-taking. You're mining for the gold, for those new words and collocations.
Got it. Layer 3.
Layer 3, pattern recognition. On this listen, you're not listening for individual words anymore. You're listening for grammar and sentence structure. How did the speaker connect those 2 sentences? Where did they pause for effect? Why did they use the past perfect tense in that specific spot?
So you're looking under the hood of the car at the engine.
You're looking at the mechanics. Exactly. Layer 4.
Layer 4.
Shadow practice. Now, you don't listen to the whole thing. You pick the hardest 30-second chunk of that clip and you put it on a loop. And you shadow it again and again and again until you sound exactly like the speaker, until you can match their speed and their intonation perfectly.
And the final layer, layer 5.
Layer 5, verification. You listen one last time all the way through, no stopping, and you just enjoy the incredible fact that you now understand 99% of it. The words that were just a blurry mess in layer 1 are now crystal clear. It's a massive confidence boost.
Wow, that's intense, but I can see how incredibly effective that would be. You would really own that piece of content by the end.
You own it. It becomes part of your active knowledge forever.
Okay, next advanced strategy, the echo chamber method. This sounds very immersive.
This is an immersive theme week. The idea is that instead of bouncing randomly from topic to topic, Monday you listen about sports, Tuesday about politics, Wednesday about cooking, you pick one specific topic for the entire week.
Okay, let's pick one. Let's say entrepreneurship.
Perfect.
Okay.
So Monday and Tuesday are massive input days. You only listen to podcasts about startups. You only read articles about venture capital. You watch clips of Shark Tank or Dragon's Den. You ignore everything else.
So your brain is just being bathed in this very specific repeated vocabulary.
Exactly. You're just hearing the words investment, equity, pitch, scale, valuation over and over and over again. By the 50th time you hear the word equity, you don't need a dictionary anymore. You just know what it means because you've heard it in 10 different contexts.
So it's immersion through repetition. Okay, what about Wednesday and Thursday?
That's your deep processing time. You take all that vocabulary you gathered and you organize it. You make flashcards. You study the contexts. You look up the collocations for investment. Is it a heavy investment, a sound investment, a risky investment?
And then the weekend is for output.
Maximum output. On Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you have to produce. You give a presentation to yourself, to a friend, to a camera about a new startup idea. You write a blog post analyzing a business. You force yourself to actively use all those words you've been soaking in all week.
The huge benefit here seems to be the natural, spaced repetition that's built in.
That's it. You don't have to force yourself to memorize the word equity because the environment, the echo chamber you created, do all the heavy lifting for you. It just sinks in naturally.
I love that. And the last advanced strategy, conversation mining. Now, this one requires a partner, right?
Ideally, yes. If you have a tutor or a language exchange friend, the first step is to ask them if it's okay for you to record your conversations.
With permission, of course. Very important. Don't be a spy.
Absolutely, with permission. Then afterwards, you mine that conversation for gold. Most people have a lesson and then they just forget about it. But the real learning is in that recording.
So I listen back and I find the moments where I struggled.
Exactly. The moments where you were grasping for a word, where you said, "Ugh." I wanted to say frustrated, but all I could think of was sad. You note that gap. That gap becomes your personalized curriculum for the next week.
And you should also pay attention to what they said.
Yeah.
The other person.
Yes. Did they use a cool phrase or an idiom you didn't know? Steal it. Write it down. Your goal is to create a study list for the next conversation that is based directly on the problems from the last conversation.
That creates such a direct, powerful feedback loop.
It does. It stops you from making the exact same mistakes for 6 months in a row, which is what so many of us do. You fix the leaks in your boat one by one.
Okay, now I can hear the listeners saying, this all sounds amazing, but you people are crazy. I have a job, I have kids, I have a commute from hell. I do not have 2 hours a day for layered listening.
And that is a completely valid concern. We are all busy. But here's the good news. This integrated approach doesn't require massive blocks of time. It requires short, frequent sessions and a technique called habit stacking.
Let's talk about the morning ritual. How can we stack these habits into a busy morning?
You can do a powerful, complete loop in just 15 or 20 minutes. Let's break it down. 5 minutes of listening warm-up while you make your coffee. Just get your ears working. Listen to a short news summary podcast.
Okay. Coffee is brewing. News is playing in the background.
Then, 5 minutes of vocab review, reading your personal sentences aloud while you eat your breakfast. Don't scroll through social media. Open your Anki deck, your notebook, and just read the sentences aloud between bites of toast.
And then the output.
5 minutes is the output while you're in the shower or getting dressed. Describe your plans for the day using your target vocabulary. Today, I need to attend a meeting about the budget. I am reluctant to sign the new contract until I see the final numbers. Boom. Input, processing, output, done before you've even left the house.
What about the commute? For so many people, that's just dead time. Or rage time, depending on the traffic.
Let's turn that rage time into productive time. The commute system is great for this. You can split it by days. Day 1 of your commute, listen and note. Use a voice recorder on your phone so you don't have to write while you're driving. Please, do not write and drive.
Safety first, yes.
You just speak to your phone. Note. He said the phrase, cut to the chase. Or note, I need to check the pronunciation of the word schedule.
That's so smart. You're just leaving notes for your future self.
Exactly. Then, Day 2 of your commute. Review and shadow. You play back that same podcast from yesterday and you shadow the dialogue in the car. You're in a private metal box. No one can hear you. It's the perfect place to practice.
Or scream.
Or scream. And Day 3, monologue practice. You just talk to yourself for the whole drive. Describe the traffic. Wow, that car just cut me off. What a reckless driver. It's perfect real-world practice.
And habit stacking is just the general principle of attaching these new habits to things you already do automatically.
Yes. The formula is simple. After I current habit, I will new language habit. So after I pour my morning coffee, I will listen to 5 minutes of a podcast. While I am chopping vegetables for dinner, I will review my vocabulary. If you wait to find time, you never will. You have to attach it to an existing trigger.
And for those who do have a bit more time, there's the weekend project.
Right. If you have a bit of free time on a Saturday, pick a TED Talk or a short documentary. Spend Saturday analyzing it. That's your input and processing. And spend Sunday creating and presenting a summary of it. That's your output. It's a great way to cap off the week with a deep dive.
Let's shift gears now to overcoming common challenges. Because even with a perfect plan, things go wrong. People hit walls.
Always. The map is not the territory. You will face obstacles.
Okay, challenge number 1, and this is a big one. The fast native speaker. I hear this all the time. I understand the textbook audio, but real people talk like machine guns.
It's a processing speed issue, pure and simple. And the first solution is to use the technology we have. Slow it down.
So using the 0.75x speed setting on YouTube or a podcast player.
Start there. There's absolutely no shame in it. It gives your brain just that extra millisecond it needs to process the sounds. Then, as you get comfortable, you nudge it up to 0.9x, and then finally to normal speed.
And we mentioned connected speech earlier. This seems to be a huge factor in why we perceive speech as being so fast.
It's massive. Native speakers do not say, "What are you doing?" They say, "What you doing?" They don't say, I'm going to go to the store. They say, I'm going to go to the store.
What y'all doing? Gonna, wanna, dunno. All those reductions.
If you are listening for the T sound in what, you're going to miss it every time. You have to actively study those reductions. And shadowing helps immensely here because you start to feel in your own mouth why we reduce those sounds. It's just physically easier. Your mouth is lazy.
So when you shadow what y'all do and you realize, oh, that's just the most efficient way to get those sounds out.
Exactly. And once you realize that, you stop hearing it as fast. You just start hearing it as efficient.
Okay, challenge number 2, the goldfish memory. You know, I learn a word on Monday, and by Tuesday, it's completely gone. It feels like I have a sieve for a brain.
This is the most natural thing in the world. Forgetting is the brain's default setting. Your brain is designed to clean house constantly. It deletes anything it deems irrelevant to save energy.
So how do we stop the cleaning crew from throwing out our new words?
Spaced repetition. You have to repeatedly signal to your brain that this piece of information is important and worth keeping. You need to see it today, then again in 2 days, then again in a week, and so on. But here's the trick.
Okay.
Don't just review the word in isolation. Review the context. Review your personal sentence. Remind yourself of the scene where you learned it.
So I should think, oh, right, reluctant, that was the word about my brother and my car.
Yes. That scene, that story, is the hook that helps you retrieve the word. And you have to accept the numbers. The research suggests you need between 10 and 20 meaningful encounters with a word before it truly sticks in your long-term memory.
10 to 20. Wow. So if I forget it after just 3 or 4 times, I shouldn't beat myself up about it.
Not at all. You're just early in the process. You're at rep 4 of 20. Just keep going.
Okay, that's very reassuring. Challenge number 3, the embarrassment factor. I just feel weird talking to myself. I feel ridiculous role-playing a waiter in my living room. My family thinks I'm going crazy.
It is weird. The first step is to just acknowledge that. It feels unnatural because it is unnatural, but you have to reframe it in your mind.
Reframe it how?
You are not talking to yourself like a crazy person. You are training a motor skill. It's no different than an athlete practicing a tennis swing in the air without a ball.
Or a musician tapping out a rhythm on a desk with their fingers.
Precisely. You wouldn't laugh at a pianist for practicing their scales over and over. You are practicing the scales of speech. And private practice builds public confidence. If you can't say the sentence correctly alone in your shower, you definitely won't be able to say it in a boardroom full of people staring at you.
That is a very sobering and very true point. Start in the shower.
Start in the shower. It's the safest place.
Let's touch quickly on the tools and the social side of this because we're living in a golden age of language learning technology.
We really are. We've mentioned podcast players with speed control like Spotify, Overcast, Pocket Casts. That's an essential tool.
Voice recording apps.
Every single phone has one. Use it. It's like a mirror for your voice. You can't fix what you can't hear.
Transcription tools are also getting amazing.
Tools like Otter.ai or even just the auto captions on YouTube, being able to see the text of what you just heard is huge for verification. It settles that classic debate of did he say can or can't?
And of course, flashcard apps.
Anki or Quizlet are the big ones. But whatever you use, make sure it has audio support. Don't just look at the word, hear the word. Anki allows you to add your own audio clips, which is perfect for this method.
And finally, the social dimension. Learning alone is efficient for building skills, but learning with others can add that layer of accountability.
Study groups can be great, but I'd suggest making them structured. Don't just meet up to chat randomly. Have a mission. Okay, everyone, listen to this 10-minute podcast, and we'll meet on Thursday to discuss it and practice shadowing a few lines together.
Shadowing together sounds chaotic, but fun.
It can be, but you learn a lot from hearing how other people interpret the sounds.
And there's one more social strategy that I think is the ultimate learning hack. Teaching as learning.
Oh, this is the highest form of learning, without a doubt. If you learn a cool new concept or a set of vocabulary, record a short video explaining it. Read a blog post about it. Explain it to your long-suffering dog.
Even if no one ever watches the video.
Even if no one ever watches it. The act of organizing your thoughts to explain something to someone else forces you to clarify your own understanding. You have to articulate your ideas. That's speaking practice. You have to organize the vocabulary logically. It hits every single part of the loop.
So we have covered a massive amount of ground today.
We really have. It's been a marathon.
We've gone from the toddler model all the way to the input-output loop. We've broken down strategic listening, context investigation, and active production. We've looked at the echo chamber method and how to survive the what-you-doing speed of native speakers.
It's a complete overhaul of the traditional, passive, list-based way of learning. It transforms you from just a student into an active participant in your own learning.
If you had to leave our listener with one final thought, one final provocation to chew on as they go and start their first loop, what would it be?
I would say, stop trusting your feelings and start trusting the metrics.
What do you mean by that?
Language learning often feels like you're not making any progress. You feel dumb one day, you feel like a genius the next. It's an emotional roller coaster. You have to ignore that.
So just focus on the data.
Look at the data. Did you learn 5 new context-rich words this week? Yes. Did you shadow for 10 minutes every day? Yes. Then you are improving, even if you don't feel like it.
Consistency beats intensity.
Always. 5 focused 10-minute sessions are infinitely better and more sustainable than one burnout cram session on a Sunday afternoon.
And embrace the mess.
Oh, you have to embrace the messy middle. You will forget words. You will sound silly talking to yourself in the shower. You will mispronounce things in front of people. That is not a sign of failure. That is the sound of learning happening.
That's a great way to put it.
The goal isn't perfection. It's connection. It's communication.
I love that as a final thought. The goal is connection. Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. I am definitely going to try the echo chamber method next week. I think my topic will be the history of coffee.
Ooh, that's a good one. You'll get lots of roasting, brewing, aroma collocations.
Exactly. Thank you so much for breaking all of this down for us today. And to our listeners, thank you for sticking with us. We really hope this changes the way you look at your language journey.
It was an absolute pleasure.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.